favorite hail makers and rain makers, and our tornado threat will continue to trickle down as we work through the next several hours. But we have still many hours of showers, thunderstorms, mainly hail and wind. You can see them continuing to pop up. These are going to last all night. These are going to go into the morning hours, so it's going to be a very loud, active night. But the good news here, I guess the two big things of good news is, one, we don't have any warnings right now. We do need to watch this cluster as it works into Delaware County, still a good 30 minutes out. And two, our tornado threat is going down, but we're still going to have a severe threat as we work through the overnight hours. So that's the latest on what is going on across the region. Also, of course, flooding. Flooding's issues definitely increasing because we couldn't get any more rain after all the rain we had Monday. Now we've had a lot of areas with 1, 2, 3, 4 inches of rain through the evening.
And unlike the tornado threat, the flooding threat is going to be with us for foreseeable future. Days at least that it could continue to rise.
Yeah, and it's not due to us neglecting the flooding threat. It's just for the past several hours. These severe storms and the tornado warnings set a higher precedent, but again, like the bigger problem as we go throughout the night is, Doug, and you've mentioned, Dow, just the flooding and just still so much rain that can't be taken into the ground anymore. It's got to go somewhere, so we need to be very mindful of that, not just for tonight, but for days to come until all the creeks, all the rivers, the tributaries can just get everything out of here.
And this graphic that they're showing now, this is helpful. This is from the U.S. Geological Survey.
Yeah, a link from the National Weather Service. They have river gauges all across the area, and they keep a close eye on not just with some gauges showing observed river levels, but those are actually forecast points too. And I would imagine if we look behind the scenes and click on one of those, we are going to see many points just saying that we are going to continue to see them crest. For example, there, one of those gauges there, what is that, the Neosho River near Oswego?
Yes.
It's already in flood stage, not forecast to go down anytime soon, and we've got plenty of these charts just showing the exact same thing, just pretty much across the entire area.
And I've been on this site a number of times. It's really helpful, and you can see the gauge there. They measure what would be a normal level, then they have levels of flood stage, you know, moderate and severe, and then beyond. And so you can get some sort of a sense of not only what is happening now, but as you say, what is likely to come and when. They make these predictions based on what's happening upstream.
Yeah, exactly.
So they know which direction the water is coming, and they know eventually it's coming south, and the water levels are going to be rising.
And to expand on your point furthermore about the flooding, I know we keep going back to prior events with tornadoes and severe storms, but the flooding too. In fact, I remember quite a few times, Jordan, I remember Christmas a few years back, we had so much flooding that caused quite widespread problems, especially in southwestern Missouri. April a few years back, the same flooding. I mean, I don't want to go on the record as saying I expect this to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if all the rivers in the area could reach those levels again.
Well, people can gauge it perhaps if they've been around long enough by previous flooding. And in Miami, we had bad flooding in 2007. The earlier projection was that this was going to crest lower than that, but still as a bad flooding. And now I think it's probably going to surpass that. You can check with this website, and you'll find links to this, by the way, through our website, KUAMnewsnow.com. But you can stay up to date on that. In Miami specifically, by the way, the police chief has put on their site, their Facebook page, some information to help people gauge how bad the flooding might get. And he's done that in a couple of creative ways. They've posted photos from previous floods of different parts of town, and you can look at that and say, well, this street flooded on this date, and this flooding now is going to be worse than that, or it's going to be a bit less than that. So that's one thing that they can do. And again, you can find a link to that through our website, KUAMnewsnow.com. Okay. Find links to all kinds of information.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, gentlemen, let's take Max 2 full, please, just to give just a fresh update on other storms that we're watching. I did notice just off screen here, southern parts of Craig County, that's a severe thunderstorm warning. I want to quickly just double check that. Just to be sure it's not trying to do anything funny. That's a 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-size hail. That'll be going until 11:45. We do see another tornado warning that's closer to Skiatook or Skiatook. Not quite sure how to say that, but areas in northern parts of Tulsa County. I believe that's Rogers County or Mays County. Whatever county that is, where the turnpike crosses between Veneta and Tulsa. Looks like radar indicated rotation there, but so far we don't have any active tornado warnings in our area for the first time, and I don't know how long, which is a good thing for the time being.
But the threat is not quite past yet.
No, I mean, thankfully we have seen a downward trend with the tornado threat, or at least starting that downward trend. But as Doug has been saying, and even before the storms got going, we're going to continue with these storms tonight. Wouldn't be surprised if they continue with some wind and hail. But again, just to exacerbate what we talked about prior, just more rain we don't need.
We're going to have people here all night long, as is typical. We have staff ready to give you information 24/7.
I mean, we're obviously doing massive team coverage, so let's look at rainfall and see kind of what we had. This is going to be radar estimated. I'm going to go back. We'll go back 12.
Your mic is off.
Your mic. Doug. We're having trouble with your mic.
Oh, what Doug's saying is.
I turned it off.
If you missed what Doug was saying, he's trying to pull up radar observations of how much rain we've gotten, at least so far.
Okay, it should be up now. I ran out, so I made sure to turn it off. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to get a little banner up here for you guys so you guys can kind of visually see. Where we are seeing these yellows, and of course this is Erie Parsons that is really dealing with the Neosho River. We're talking probably 3 inches of rain that they've picked up. Nevada's probably picked up 3-4 inches of rain. The tornado producing cell, you can see where it exactly tracked out of Craig County, northern Ottawa, right through Galena, Riverton, through Jasper, and then all the way out toward Golden City, and it's still going. You can see the red polygon, but that stripe, it dropped 1 to 2 inches of rain. So we have a lot of areas that picked up a ton of rain, even heavier in northeastern Oklahoma, a lot of areas 2 to 5 inches of rain. So just tremendous amounts of rain that we've had in the past 12 hours. So if we add this up and you add it onto what we had Monday and then into Tuesday morning, most of the viewing areas had an average of about 6 to 13 inches of rain.
Goodness.
And then if you add the past 3 weeks, we're at 15 to 20. So, I mean, that is insane rain.
I know you have the tools to figure this out. How much over are we for the usual?
Well, now we would probably be about 9 inches above. But what's the worst part about that is we've had almost 3 times the amount of rain that we should have in the month of May, which is our rainiest month.
Yeah.
I would say the Joplin Airport is approaching 10 inches for the month of May. We should only have about 4.5. Now, when we started this big rainy stretch about 3 weeks ago, we were 2.5, 3 inches behind.
Wow.
So that just shows you, if we're 6, 7, 8 inches above now, it shows you how fast we closed that gap and how fast we went above it.
If we stay on this graphic for a minute, this SkyWatch Storm Tracker, what's interesting, there's a lot interesting here, but you talk about that stripe, that diagonal stripe that goes right across near the 3 corners and then on up into Greenfield. It starts down in Bartersville. You say that is basically the tornadoes.
Yeah, see,
That's that supercell.
I just put the storm tracks on top of that stripe of rain.
So as the tornado was moving through, it was dumping rain at that time, or it's ahead of or behind?
Well, it would be just ahead of the tornado. So you would get a dump of 1 to 3 inches of rain, and then a tornado will come through.
Or to further elaborate on Doug's point, if you didn't get the tornado with that supercell, if it passed just south of you, you had quite a bit of hail to go through on top of all that rain from one storm.
It might be interesting at some point to see how that stripe lines up with the debris trail and if, you know, the damage that we might see from the tornado, but it's going to be probably pretty close to the same sort of stripe, I would guess.
You can see the Golden City, major structural damage in Golden City. We can look several large trees down and homes, roof damage. This is the Briarbrook area. We can go back. This is just north of Commerce, large tornado confirmed. I mean, it's the same tornado. We go all the way back into Craig County. This picture of tornado on Twitter. And this continued all the way back into Tulsa. So, I mean, you can actually follow the stripe here, which is pretty crazy. Let me zoom out a little bit. but you can see where it developed all the way back near Stillwater and follow the line all the way through Oklahoma, and it's still going, and it's still producing a tornado warning just east of Bolivar, Missouri, which is crazy, or Buffalo, Missouri, I'm sorry.
In some cases, I guess we're talking about the same tornado, and in others, tornadoes reforming or respawning along that same line.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's remarkable. Again, from that stripe, we have damage in the Carl Junction area. We had some touchdowns apparently in the Orinoco area, but the damage there appears to be more limited. And the worst news tonight is that we do have 3 fatalities in the Golden City area. That's confirmed by the Lamar Police Chief, Rusty Rives.
I just want to ask you, Doug, offhand, do you see anything popping up in the storms right now, anything that concerns you right now?
When I'm glancing at these, I'll even put it in a 2-hour loop. I mean, you can see we're kind of on an overall downward trend of at least supercells, but the thunderstorms are still developing northeastern Oklahoma, and we still have, I mean, this is obviously monster cell just to the west of Veneta that still has a tornadic capability. What I'm seeing right now is our tornado threat is going to continue to go down. It's not gone. It's going to stick around for the rest of the overnight hours, but we're mainly going to a wind and hail threat. I'm actually now, my most concern is flooding, because even though what we've just shown, a lot of areas 1 to 4 inches, I think especially along the I-44 corridor, I'll kind of circle it for you. I really think from right in here, we're going to have probably an additional 2 to 4 inches of rain. So, I mean, so even though we have some damage, and of course you got to remember too, we got a lot of houses, Golden City, Carl Junction, even parts of Ottawa County that don't have roofs, or, you know, they have some structural damage. And it was kind of the same thing that happened after the Joplin tornado. People are trying to clean up and it's raining on you.
That's true.
This threat, like you said, is going to last until what time this morning?
The latest models I've kind of looked at, I mean, we're going to have showers and thunderstorms on probably 7, 8, 9 o'clock. I mean, so another 8, 9 hours.
Yeah.
So you're talking about another 2 or more inches over the next 12 hours or less.
Oh, yeah, right.
At least.
Probably 8 to 10 hours, yeah.
So, wow, torrential rains continuing for a while.
At least right now we don't have any immediate warnings in the area. We're dealing with, right now, with just watching more storms kind of fire and see what happens. I mean, you can see them really blossoming out in Oklahoma west of Bartlesville and then west of Independence. Again, I think our tornado threat is going down, but it's still the very high flooding threat, hail threat. I know a lot of, obviously, people are nervous about severe weather, which we should be around here, and especially tonight. I hope people don't get complacent when you go, you know, 4 years since, I think it was 3 or 4 years, the Baxter tornado. We did have the Goodman just a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was 2014, 5 years ago.
And then we had the Joplin tornado, obviously, in 2011. So we kind of go these gaps, but we had tornadoes tonight that did damage. And I understand people get very nervous. Of course, as we work through the night, we're going to watch that tornado threat, but I do think it's more of a hail and a wind threat, but it's definitely something that you want to have your weather radio near you or your phone with your alerts, just in case.
Well, and the danger from the rising water comes in a number of fronts, but part of that is when people try to drive into standing water. Obviously they shouldn't, but when we get drownings, a good percentage of the time it is because people get trapped in their cars, they get swept off of low water bridges. And then another concern is that you don't know exactly what is under that water, even if you know that it's shallow. Even if you know that it's shallow. And even if the water has passed, for that matter, we've seen many cases where structures have been washed out or damaged.
Roadways just giving way.
Right, and then a car tries to drive over that, and then, you know, maybe they're going to slide on or roll into some deeper water and be in some serious trouble. So if in doubt, don't, as they say, go around, don't drown.
Yeah, turn around, don't drown. It's not cliche. We say that for good reason.
That's right. Don't ignore the barricades. Be very cognizant of what's out there.
Yeah, and I will say, if you don't mind, I was just keeping an eye on the weather chats. I've been keeping an eye on Wichita. Thankfully, they have been quiet on their end overall throughout the course of the night. They've been noticing the storms when Doug had the radar up around Independence. At their strongest, they're only producing dime to nickel-sized hail, not strong enough to go with a severe thunderstorm warning, but those storms have been struggles, so not to disparage or put down anybody that had rough damage tonight, but on the Kansas side, count yourself blessed, because those storms could have been a lot worse. It could have been as bad as the ones that
they were firing up too, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying. Like, the entire area has been just in that environment where they could just get going. For some areas, they've lucked out, but unfortunately for others, and again, I don't say that to disparage anybody. I'm not trying to do that at all, but...
Well, the Kansas side, as Doug said, the threat now probably is the high water as much as anything. We did have
high water with more rain being added to it.
And I know you had talked to the Cherokee County Sheriff earlier. He said that the tornadic damage in Cherokee County appeared to be very limited, maybe to a little bit of roof damage.
Yeah.
And in Ottawa County, Oklahoma, again, there appeared to be some structural damage in the northern part of the county. There were some power lines down, but for the most part, limited. This is some video from the Sheriff's Office in Cherokee County. And you know what? We're going to see lots of scenes like this, I think, tomorrow. Probably in many of the counties, maybe all of the counties in our area, there are going to be downed trees, and they present their own hazard, of course, more than just an inconvenience. It can be dangerous.
Yeah, and especially with that supercell in particular that dropped so many tornadoes. It kept doing that well after the sun set, so we don't even know how that damage looks, and I guarantee you with the light of day tomorrow, and if it's safe enough for survey crews for the Springfield area to come on out, I bet we're going to unfortunately find more damage, just like what we're seeing there around Fur Road. With again, it's just amazing seeing any power pole like that just snapped in half.
Well, when you talk about surveying, it's a whole nother problem, because we had the Monday tornadoes, of course, just south of Pittsburgh. I'm making some tea. My voice is getting gone. They haven't even surveyed the tornado south of Pittsburgh from Monday because all the Springfield National Weather Service had. Big storms yesterday, severe weather, and then these again. So they may not even survey the one from Pittsburgh. They may just say, hey, it was an EF0, EF1, and
they prioritize, don't they? Yeah, they prioritize where they go out.
Because this tornado tonight's going to take precedence. So we've had and yesterday there were tons of tornadoes central and eastern Missouri. There's so many, they may just pick the top 10 and say, we're going to survey that.
Yeah, and to further elaborate on what Doug said, too, Springfield doesn't just cover Bourbon, Crawford, Cherokee counties at our corner, southwest Missouri. They cover the southern Ozarks and almost up to the Lake of the Ozarks, and they all had storms the past 2 days, too, and it's not just us, so they have a lot on their plate.
Yeah.
So when they come in and they assess that, they determine that it was a tornado or not, I suppose that has some insurance repercussions, maybe some other things, but what does that add to their body of knowledge as far as the science of tornadoes? What is it, is there a goal that they have here that it helps them to learn something about future forecasting?
I always talk to Doug Kramer here. He's one of the lead forecasters at Springfield National Weather Service. We went to college together, and he says that the main thing that they try to do with the survey is they take the damage and then they go back to the radar, and they can kind of say, okay, so this radar looked at this radar looked at this. So they are learning from them, but when they get into stretches like we've had the past 2 or 3 days, I think it's just kind of whipping them out. But, I mean, they're looking for how the damage is, especially like when we talk about like Pittsburgh, because I haven't even gotten a chance. So many people have already cleaned that up that they can't accurately tell how bad it was.
They have pictures, but like you say, it's different, isn't it? Yeah, it's
and the way they measure the tornado is based largely on the damage.
Right.
They look at the patterns of the damage, and I guess the types of damage, and maybe even the way a tree is damaged, or the patterns of the debris and the way it's moved.
And I mean, so on Monday we had, I guess it was just south of Pittsburgh, really from Weir to Chicopee, and then toward Menda Mines. And because they haven't even surveyed that, and I guarantee people have been cleaning their yards up for the past 2 days. So, they may not be able to accurately say, hey, that was an EF2, because it's been too long.
Right. the damage along Langdon Lane, where
Right.
a lot of houses were damaged, some of the structures, I should say, and a lot of trees were damaged, but no serious injuries.
And also, it just came to me to elaborate on what Doug said too. If there are areas that still haven't cleaned up from the prior storms over the past 2 days, if they go and survey that, they may have a tough time trying to separate the damage that occurred from the past few days to the storms from tonight.
Interesting point. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And we're going back over to video, and again, you haven't seen this at all tonight. If you're somehow just joining us, this is video of very likely either high wind damage or tornado damage. I believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, from the Briarbrook.
Yes, Briarbrook.
And again, I mean, like, that's just definitely going to be one key aspect that these survey crews will look
And again, as we look through these videos, I do want to reiterate, we don't have any warnings right now. We have showers, we have thunderstorms. They're all under severe limits, but Nick and I, and already Michael Hayslip's in, who never went to bed tonight. So we're all on top of it. And if we have warnings, we're going to let you know.
You cannot fault him for being committed, Michael Hayslip.
Keith Sammer was a great help to us earlier in clarifying some of the extent of the damage and the locations of the damage, and just to go over some of what he was telling us. Briarbrook, which is what you're seeing now, that had most of the structural damage that we were able to find this evening. That was limited primarily to residential areas and primarily specifically to the Briarbrook area of Carl Junction, and then along Fur Road there was quite a lot of trees down and maybe some power lines. That's a new picture from Carl Junction. Wow, look at that sizable tree. I can't tell if it was broken or uprooted. It looks like maybe it was broken.
Yeah, and we can obviously see that, I mean, the same tornado was kind of regenerating as it went through and still is out across central Missouri. But this is the type of tornado where it's, you know, one house is hit, the house across the street is okay because it was a smaller, it wasn't a EF5 Joplin tornado that just took out a path. But obviously, hopefully everybody was in their shelter, and we haven't heard anything of injuries or fatalities out of Carl Junction, at least.
Right, not out of Carl Junction. 3 fatalities in the Golden City, Missouri area, but no
Same
injuries.
Tornado.
Same tornado. No injuries reported out of Carl Junction, or for that matter, anywhere to our knowledge at this point, other than Golden City. We're going to look at some of this. That may be, this is a boat, we're being told by her.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A boat might be useful in the coming days, but this one maybe not so much, huh? A lot of farmland is going to be suffering some serious losses, I'm afraid, because of all the water.
There's that,
This is obviously
Is that
a cell phone
Briarbrook?
video.
That's
Yes, it
Briarbrook,
is.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, it's Carl Junction anyway.
Carl Junction.
So, and that presumably the...
You know, it's hard to tell the distance from that, but I mean, judging, I would say that's 1/8 of a mile wide, so there's probably a nice 1/8 of a mile, you know, little damage path right through there. But I mean, obviously on the ground, obviously, you know, doing damage as it worked through. And this was roughly about 8 o'clock, 8:15 this evening. But yeah, this same storm is still producing tornadoes out across central Missouri now, which is crazy. So now for about 7 hours, 7.5 hours, this exact same storm is producing the exact, well, it's not the exact same tornado, but the same storm is producing tornadoes over and over and over again.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but typically once the sun sets and the atmosphere cools down, it takes some of the energy out of the storm like this.
It usually does, and that's why they have been trickling down a little bit since we've kind of lost the heating of the day. But the dynamics were so strong today, you know, it kind of goes into the overnight hours.
Just had some momentum going in, and I guess on top of that, the moisture contributed to some of the energy in this storm.
Exactly, and you can see they're still developing southeastern Kansas, Oklahoma. We aren't getting any severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings in the immediate area, thankfully. I really think from this point on, I still think we're going to have a few warnings, hopefully not tornado, but I do think we'll have a few severe thunderstorm warnings. But hopefully from this point on, we're kind of transitioning, I'm not saying hopefully, but transitioning into a flooding threat, which obviously is a threat on its own, but at least the tornado threat is going down.
Real quickly, I know forecasting, you've been You haven't been forecasting much tonight. You've been busy.
Yeah, I haven't done any forecasting.
Well, we
tonight.
made a forecast, but haven't had a chance to look at it.
So what does the rest of this week look like?
If you want to, I could pop up a 7-day.
Yeah, we can do that. Tomorrow and what is today?
This is Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday. Okay.
About to be Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday and Friday, we're going to have more storms, but they mainly look to be north of us, kind of along I-70, Kansas City, Lawrence, Topeka, and those could be severe for them. We may get a few in here, a random one tomorrow and a random one on Friday, but at least most of us are going to get a chance to dry out a bit. Now, of course, we have the holiday weekend coming up. Our severe threat starts to increase again Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday particularly higher. So Memorial Day, and then on Tuesday, and then we have another pretty good severe threat late next week, late Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that would be the first full weekend of June. I think once we get past that, we're going to kind of transition into more of a summer pattern.
We need a summer pattern, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We definitely do.
That means drying out and definitely bring on the summer pattern.
If you don't mind, I did want to point out with the thunderstorm chances for tomorrow, I really expect the storms to be more northwest of the area, but they could clip areas around, let's say, Yates Center, Iola, Humboldt. The closer you get to the Kansas Turnpike, that's where most of the storms should be. And well, based on the last time I checked with the Storm Prediction Center, they shifted the severe threat for tomorrow at the central and western parts of Kansas.
The problem, though, with storms to our north is it still fills up the rivers.
And it's got
and it rolls
its way down here.
So even if we aren't getting rain in the immediate area, it doesn't mean like the Neosho River is not going to continue to rise. So that's a problem.
Which is why we see cresting that comes sometimes days after the rain has stopped.
Correct.
And it can be a little bit misleading and perhaps dangerous. You know, and again, this is the site that you can find a link to this through our website, KOAMnewsnow.com, but it can show you the levels where the rivers are currently, and it can also show you where they are projected to be and when, what the crest level is likely to be, and give you some sense of areas that you need to avoid or areas that you might even need to evacuate. There have been some areas, particularly along the Neosho River, where people have already been evacuating. At some point this evening, we are going to wrap up this continuing coverage. We might stay with this for a bit longer to see if we get any updated information on damage or injuries.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to comb through all the chats, Springfield and Tulsa.
Yeah, I just looked at some of those.
Par Lane is in Briarbrook. This is what we're looking right now. Par Lane is in Briarbrook.
You know, I'm afraid, obviously, we're going to see lots and lots of bent down trees. And look at what appears to be a really sizable tree. That can do the damage on its own. Forget the wind directly to the house. Just knocking over a tree in that's soft soil and crashing down on structures is obviously creating damage and potential damage.
And if I remember correctly, I think Lisa reported from the storms Tuesday or on Monday. I think that's what happened with our IT director, Alan Bybee. I think he had do you remember about that, Doug? I think he sustained tree damage.
He did.
I want to say.
He lived along Langdon Lane, just south of Pittsburgh. And like many of the property owners there, he had some tree damage, quite a lot. He had a number of trees in his yard. I think more than a dozen, was left with 4.
And unfortunately, more of that with the storms tonight.
Jake, did you have something for us, or producer?
Good news if you guys are good.
Yeah, our producer, Jake Tackberry, passing us something along to Dow.
Okay, this is Carl Junction Police Department has an update on Facebook. As of now, search and rescue in the Briarbrook area has been completed. No fatalities reported at this time. This is in the Carl Junction area.
Good.
Only superficial injuries like scrapes, cuts reported at this time. Roadways are now open, but to residents of Briarbrook only, we want to stress that, don't go there. If you don't have to be there, do not go there. Emergency crews need those roadways. If you do not live in Briarbrook, please avoid the area so utility workers can continue to clean up debris and power lines. And they ended saying, thank you all for your cooperation in this. We highly appreciate it. Stay safe, everyone. I'll repeat that as we go over this Carl Junction video. Carl Junction Police Department updating on Facebook. As of now, search and rescue in the Briarbrook area has been completed. No fatalities reported at this time. Only superficial injuries like scrapes, cuts reported at this time. Again, we're talking about the Briarbrook area of Carl Junction. Roadways are now open to residents of Briarbrook only. If you do not live in Briarbrook, Please avoid the area so utility workers can continue to clean up debris and power lines.
And it's still amazing that as you read that, Dal, would be going back over the video and the pictures from Briar Brook, still amazing, no fatalities considering the damage that the subdivision
Not
took.
only no fatalities, but if they
No
are
big
correct,
injuries,
no serious injuries, nothing
just-
more than superficial injuries in Briar Brook.
Cuts and
Somewhat good
scrapes, we'll
news.
take that.
Yeah, somewhat good news for Briar Brook. Again, bad news for Golden City.
And I just looked over, I ran off screen and glanced at some of our weather models. If you pop up our Max 1 real quick, I kind of made a circle, and this is kind of a target area for about 2 to 4 inches more rain over about the next 6 to 7 hours. We could have some severe thunderstorm warnings. I think our tornado threat is low now. It's not non-existent, but it is low. But we got to watch for about 2 to 4 more inches of rain over the next 6, 7 to 8 hours. No immediate warnings in the area. Still kind of watching this cluster, northeastern Oklahoma, and kind of developing back through southeastern Kansas. But I guess the good news here is tornado threat is going down rapidly. Still kind of have a hail and wind threat. The flooding threat, unfortunately, is going up as we continue to get storms through the overnight.
Guys, I think we can try to maybe do kind of a summary of what
Yep,
we
I
know
think so.
tonight as necessary, so people can keep it here, and they can also go to our Facebook page and to our website to get updated information 24/7. But just a brief summary or an overview of what's gone on tonight. The storm system started in Oklahoma, moved up through southeastern Kansas into Cherokee County, and then into Jasper County and into Barton County of southwest Missouri, and along the way maybe caused a bit of scattered damage in first Ottawa County, where there was possibly some structural damage and some power lines down in the northern part of the county. As it moved into Cherokee County, we had a report of maybe some roof damage, but nothing widespread and no injuries. Moving into Jasper County, first substantial damage was in the Briar Brook area of Carl Junction, where some homes, maybe a number of homes, were damaged, but we've just heard that the search and rescue is completed there, and there are no substantial injuries in Carl Junction, but you should stay away from Carl Junction. Do not be going sightseeing there, because they do have power lines down. They do have some emergency workers, lots of them there, as you would imagine, who are going through Carl Junction, so you need to stay away from there. We will be bringing you video throughout the coming days. Then the storm also moved into Barton County, Missouri, and that's tragically where we have loss of life. We've heard from the police chief in Lamar that 3 people were killed in the Golden City area. Other than those 3 fatalities, we don't really know of even any injuries.
True. So I think we're going to learn a lot more about northern Jasper County, because I know it was on the ground just south of Jasper as it moved into Golden City. I'm sure we're going to find out more damage in that area, obviously. And from what I've read on Golden City, there's massive damage. So
Yeah, we'll sadly have to see how bad it is once we get the light of day tomorrow.
That's right.
But at least right now, we don't have any warnings in the immediate area. And I know as we wrap up, just so you know, we'll continue letting you know if we do have warnings. We'll break in, and we'll probably do some more Facebook Lives here for a little bit, kind of wrapping up everything that is happening and what is going to happen for the rest of the night.
Nick and Doug, we appreciate all you've done.
And we want to thank everybody out there for just bearing with us throughout the course of the afternoon and evening.
Okay, please stay safe out there, everybody, and stay tuned.